Before we start off, I'd like to invite Engineer Dr. Inyunam Pepena to give us the welcome address. But because we're in Ghana, just before she does that, we always start with a word of prayer. So let me just say a quick word of prayer and then we will start. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for today. We want to thank you for this afternoon, for bringing everybody together, for us to discuss such important items such as this. Lord, as we're going through this session, we pray that you'll be with us. We pray that this will be fruitful. And at the end of the day, we will have key nuggets to take with us in our day-to-day activities. Thank you. In Jesus' name we've prayed. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I'd like to invite Engineer Dr. Inyunam Pepena to give us the welcome address.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lucy. I would like to start with protocols. Our Honorable President of FAEO, I don't know if he's here, Engineer Papayas Kazawadi, President-elect of FAEO, Engineer FAEO-WIE Buthelezi, Acting Director of FAEO, Engineer Joshua Ebube, President of GhIE, Engineer Kwabna Bempong, Immediate Past Chair, WIFIU and FAEO-WIE, Engineer Yetunde Holloway, Presidents and Executive Directors of FAEO member countries, Presidents and Chairs of Women in Engineering Groups within FAEO regions and PEIs, that's the Professional Engineering Institutions, FAEO-WIE Strategic Team Leads, FAEO-WIE members, officers of FAEO Secretariat, and the WIE Ghana Secretariat, fellow engineers, ladies and gentlemen. I deem it a great honor to welcome everyone to the first and 2024 edition of the webinar dubbed Engineering Excellence, Insights from Male Champions. The Federation of African Engineering Organizations, as we all know, is an international non-governmental organization that represents the interests of African engineering organizations. It serves as a coordinated voice for African engineers within the continent and at the World Federation of Engineering Organizations. It is indeed a great privilege for Women in Engineering Committee, a standing committee of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations, to host this webinar in partnership for the very first time with Women in Engineering Ghana, the female group of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. Both groups have a shared purpose of collaboratively bringing together, empowering, inspiring, encouraging, and sharing the achievement of female engineering practitioners across the world and in Africa as well. We believe that equality, diversity, and inclusion in the engineering and allied sectors is crucial to creating a sector which can address the challenges that exist in this world. So I was called upon to, or I was appointed to chair the committee of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations, the Women in Engineering Committee. And this is the very first time since my appointment to host a webinar at this level. And I especially want to thank you for this opportunity and for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to serve in this capacity. The program today is being organized through a joint collaboration between FAEO-WIE and WIE Ghana. And as detailed in our program outline, that we plan to engage and recognize the efforts of our specially selected panelists who have championed the cause of achieving gender equality. We realize that most of the time, webinars organized by this committee focus on members learning from panelists who are mostly females, with females taking the center stage and leading roles in the gender equality campaign. As we work hard through our efforts, we believe that male champions, the few male champions we have need to be recognized and continually engaged through dialogue, decisions, and forums like this to better understand insights and perspectives from male champions using such platforms. I therefore welcome the idea that has been initiated by FAEO-WIE and also Wine Ghana, powered by Wine Ghana. I have no doubt that today's program will be an enriching one, with participants joining from all across the globe. The program, as outlined, will provide us with the opportunity for panelists to deliver brief presentations or their views, have a panel discussion, answer questions from members, and allow us to take recommendations and suggestions from members. Once again, I gladly welcome everyone to today's special session with male champions and invite us all to fully participate to make this session a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Kwekena, our President for Women in Engineering Ghana, and also currently the WIE Chair at the FAEO level. Thank you so much for that. So I'd like to invite Engineer Beverly Nyakuchikua. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't bastardize your name, but Engineer Beverly, can you please come and help us introduce the chairperson? But before we do that, I just want to run a few protocols by the whole team. When you log in, please put your phones, tablets, laptops on silent. If you have any comments or questions, please put it in the chat section. When it's time for us to have an open dialogue, please, if you raise your hand and we call you, then you can unmute, put on your camera, and then ask your questions or comments. Engineer Beverly, are you here with us?
Yes, I am. Evening, everyone.
Good evening. And how do you pronounce your surname?
Nyakutsikwa.
Fantastic. Next time I'll get it
Yeah.
right. Please go ahead and introduce our chair.
All right, thank you. So I'm Engineer Beverly Nyakutsikwa from Zimbabwe, and it's a great pleasure to introduce our chairperson, Engineer Yetunde Holloway. So Yetunde holds a first degree in civil engineering and a master's from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. She is a registered engineer with the Council for the Regulation of Engineering of Nigeria, COREN, a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, MNSE, a member of the Nigerian Institution of Civil Engineers, MNICE, an associate of the Chartered Arbitrators UK, and a member of the Institute of Facility Managers. Yetunde is an executive director with the Special Committee for the Rehabilitation of Public Schools in Lagos State, as appointed in 2020 by the governor of the state. She had previously worked with the Lagos State Development and Property Corporation, where she held progressive leadership roles in the execution of major projects for the organization. She previously worked locally and internationally in the private sector as well. Voluntary responsibilities have included being chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Lagos branch, and is a founding executive of the Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria, APWEN Lagos chapter. Yetunde mentors several young and aspiring engineers and particularly encourages the professional development of females. She brings a genuine passion and dedication to her work and voluntary assignments that enable her to achieve credible and excellent results. She is the immediate past chair of the Women in Engineering Committee of the World Federation of Engineering Organizations, WIFIO, and Federation of African Engineering Organizations, FAEO. Her vision includes highlighting the roles of female engineers in achieving the SDGs and leaving the world a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Engineer Yetunde Holloway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beverly. I will do a brief protocol. So I greet the FAO President, Engineer Papas Kazawadi, the President-elect, Engineer Philippe Butulesi, the Presidents of engineering institutions and organizations and of female engineering organizations and chapters in Africa, our esteemed colleagues of the engineering family, and the distinguished panelists and moderator. My chair of this committee and the team leads, ladies and gentlemen, If I've missed anybody out, I will just stand on the already very well established protocols by the chair. A very warm welcome from me to the first edition of the Federation of African Engineering Organizations Women in Engineering Committee for 2024, as well as the WIE, Women in Engineering Ghana webinar. It is a genuine pleasure to see people gathered, well, virtually here today for this important topic, engineering excellence, insights from male champions. And it's in line with the theme one of the committee, engineering workforce diversity and capacity building. I will crave the indulgence of Madam Chair. Oh, I think I'm supposed to put on my video. I forgot actually. Okay, yeah. So I crave the indulgence of Madam Chair and all participants to kind of rejig the title so that the aim of the webinar is, at least to my thinking, is a bit clearer. So my ideas are just to explain, not to change what is on ground, viewing the female quest for equality, diversity, and inclusion through the masculine lens. Or another that I thought of, he for she, speaks up for gender equality, which explains why we have an all-male panel. Of course, Dr. Enyonam explained that very well also. As we all know, the he for she movement promotes gender equality and challenges gender stereotypes, which is what this webinar is looking at also. We're challenging the stereotype that all men don't want equality. And it encourages all genders to work together and stand together for a more equitable world. So the discussion will remind us of the fact that men are allies of women and not enemies of women. And women are not necessarily competing with men or trying to put them down. I remember a senior colleague at work then, when I was with the Lagos State Building Corporation, Engineer GhIE, who insisted that I should vie for a leadership post about 15 years ago or so. I never asked him why, and it took me a while to take the step. But I did become the chair of Lagos branch, and I did an excellent job, if I may say so for myself. In addition, the first female president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers has staunch female supporters who believe in her capabilities as a leader and are instrumental to her success so far. So this webinar is essentially to learn alongside the men as they look from the outside in. They're not females, so they're going to be looking outside from the outside in and seeing what and looking and giving us their insights. And a possible outcome could be that we should learn. We would learn how to communicate our quest for equality, equity, and inclusivity, and diversion louder, and in the language that the men understand, the masculine language. The panel members have all been carefully chosen. They are indeed male champions in engineering and otherwise, and believers in gender equality. So I say we should all sit back, listen, and enjoy the discourse. And I thank you all. I thank you, Engineer Dr. Enyonam, for the honor of giving me to chair this event and an auspicious event like this. I know that I'm the alternate chair, that I'm replacing Engineer Kalien. So I thank you very much for choosing me. Thank you for listening also. Thank you.
Engineer Yetunde, thank you so much for that. And thank you for taking time out to also explain where you're coming from with regards to what we are doing here today. I want to invite the chair of the Women in Engineering Education and Mentoring Committee to give us the purpose of gathering, just to add on to what Engineer Yetunde has said. Engineer Alberta, over to you. Engineer Alberta, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, my microphone was muted.
It's okay. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. So as the Vice Chair of Team 1 of FAEO-WIE, which is about engineering workforce diversity and capacity building, I am very happy to have the opportunity to engage members on this platform where FAEO-WIE and WINE Ghana members are collaborating to organize this webinar. As we are all aware, females are mostly at the forefront of gender inclusivity efforts, with a few males supporting the cause. Today, we gather to launch an initiative that allows us to recognize the efforts of our male champions, celebrate and also obtain insights from our panelists, who are distinguished male champions in engineering, and are also committed to promoting gender equality and diversity. This initiative is spearheaded by the Mentoring and Education Committee of Women in Engineering Ghana and the theme leads of FAEO-WIE under the strategic theme, Engineering Workforce Diversity and Capacity Building. And the purpose of this initiative is to create a platform for us to interact with our male champions through dialogue, inspiration, and actionable insights. Thank you.
Engineer Albert, have we lost you? You've gone back on mute. I think you're back. Can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think we lost you for a little bit. Please carry on.
Okay. So this initiative is spearheaded by the Mentoring and Education Committee of Women Engineering Ghana, and then the theme leads of FAEO-WIE under the strategic theme, Engineering Workforce Diversity and Capacity Building. The purpose for this initiative is to create a platform for us to interact with our male champions through dialogue, inspiration, and actionable insights. So thank you for joining, and we are happy for you to be part of this program.
Thank you so much, Engineer Alberta. So we're going to quickly go back to our program. Thank you for explaining to us why we're here today. We're going to move on to the next bit of our program, which is for us to introduce our distinguished panelists who we have brought in today to share their insights, give us a little bit of an anecdote about themselves, how they got to where they are, and their views on the topic that we're discussing today. Each of our panelists will have about 3 to 5 minutes to just give us a little bit of a speech before we go into the main panel discussion today. So I'm going to start off, I'll introduce them, give a little bit of their bio, and then hand over to them for them to give us their speech. We're going to start off with Engineer Frederick Kwabena Bediako. And just to read a little bit about his bio, Engineer Frederick Kwabena Bediako is an outstanding electrical engineer with over 20 years of post-qualification experience. He's a graduate of the renowned Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and Coventry University, UK, from which he obtained his BSc in Electrical Electronic Engineering and Masters in Engineering and Management certificate honors respectively. Engineer Bediako has undertaken several designs and supervision assignments in major 33 kilovolt, 11 kilovolt, and low voltage projects, such as the construction of the 2x10 megavolt indoor substation for the Afari Military Hospital, complete with a 10 kilometers double circuit tower line. He has also served as a project manager for a number of World Bank and other donor-funded projects. Recognition of his exemplary performance by top management gained him the manager of major projects position in the Ashanti Strategic Business Unit. By dint of his exceptional hard work and competency in the ensuing years, he was elevated to the General Manager Network Project status in the Ashanti SBU in October 2021. Following the disbandment of the Ashanti SBU, Fred was appointed the General Manager of the Ashanti South region in May 2023. It was of no surprise that his region emerged the best performing region in the year 2023, which can obviously be attributed to his laudable managerial and leadership skills. Aside his great numerous services to the challenging demands of ECG, Engineer Bediako also has been dedicated to a number of esteemed affiliations, He's a professional engineer and member of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, a member of Project Management Institution, and sitting Grand Knight of Council 94 Adenta, and a member of the Lions Club as well. Engineer Frederick Kwabena Bediako, thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and please let's have your submission.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Good evening to all the panelists. Good evening to everyone that is on the webinar. I am grateful for this honor done me. It's an extreme honor to be sharing the table with such esteemed engineers and engineering-related panel members. I'm actually in awe of the experience that they have. Probably be learning a few things from them after this particular webinar. So thank you very much. When I received the flyer, I'm going to start with a story. When I received the flyer, I looked at the topic and I said, okay. I said to myself, from the perspective of a woman, what would be what is actually required of a male champion, and making sure that they progress in terms of engineering excellence. So I actually sent it to my wife, who is an engineer with considerable years of experience, and I asked, okay, so assuming that if we're working together, and how would you want me to project or be able to help you to achieve engineering excellence? And then, most importantly, as an engineering husband of yours, what would be required of me? She looked at the topic and said, okay, I think this one is a bit too broad and it's a bit difficult to come up with whatever it is. But then she put out a few pointers, and these are them. Be fair in giving opportunities to all. Some men are gender biased when it comes to especially field engineering work. Number two, recommend women for promotions and leadership roles only if they qualify. Some support policies that offer flexibility to enable women balance work and personal responsibilities. For example, if a woman has to attend to something personal during the day and can still deliver on her assignments later on, allow it. Celebrate their achievements, and this is very important. We're putting that in perspective in the delivery. And provide mentorship. Mostly you find women mentoring women. Men can also mentor women. And I believe that is the reason why you have male champions on this particular webinar. Now, the thing is, the question that you would want to ask is, what is engineering excellence? And in all the research that I have done, from the top of my head, achieving, making sure you provide excellent workouts, making sure you do what is actually required of you as an engineer, making sure you grow within and ensure continuous development. In all of it, one of the research that I have come across is actually striking, and it puts everything into perspective. And it says engineering excellence is pursuit of being excellent at the craft of engineering, being both efficient as well as effective in delivering delight to customers, and in the process, deriving pride and satisfaction from the work and then the finished product. It is an endeavor, not an end goal, and it spurs us on as engineers to wake up each day to just build better and become better at each craft. Now, this engineering excellence is founded on 4 pillars, and these pillars are craftsmanship, effectiveness, productivity, and happiness. Now, you would want to pick these pillars and then delve a little bit into them. Craftsmanship is by having a deep knowledge of what you are doing, and it means that your education is actually key in ensuring engineering excellence. Especially, you need to really understand the work at hand and then be able to build and design the system to make sure that you attain flexibility, maintainable, and then testable products that you churn out there. Effectiveness, by having a good estimate, managing the project and identifying risks that may mitigate against the project that you're undertaking. The team should be able to deliver on time and then according to budget. In terms of productivity, by ensuring engineers are not wasting their time on needless work and making the right investment in force and multipliers. Happiness. Any loss in experience, engineers would cause a hit in productivity and effectiveness of the team. It is crucial to keep engineers fully engaged. Now, coming back to what I initially read from the pointers that I received, the bit is whether we are actually promoting women engineers in the practice that we find ourselves. We would understand, or we would want to agree that engineering practice and this part of our world is actually male dominated. But then again, we have actually met in my line of work, I've met very astonishing engineers that have really put themselves on the radar. And in terms of celebrating their achievements, celebrating them would also spare other young engineers, male and female engineers, to be able to look at their achievements. And a few that I would want to mention, Engineer Bushelid, who has risen all the way to be a board member of ECG, Engineer Anyona Mpepena, Engineer Alberta Amankwa,
I can't hear you again.
Your phone has gone on mute, please. If you can kindly unmute for us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You ended, you were
Okay.
talking about the amazing women that we have on our platform who have been able to achieve. Please continue.
Yes. So as I was saying, if we are able to bring out the achievements of these ladies, then it actually spare on other young ladies and actually even young males that would want to look at them and say that, yes, these engineers have actually, put themselves on the radar. And we would also admit that back in school, we realized that these ladies were quite more, even much more intelligent than some of the young, the men that we have in our classes. But then again, we've come out, and because we are not actually celebrating their achievements, it is making it look like the engineering practice in our country is actually male dominated. And I would want to mention a few, as I said, Engineer Butchedi, who has risen all the way to become a board member, Engineer Anyona Mpepena, who has spoken very well, espoused all her achievements, Engineer Alberta Amankwa, and all that. Now, coming back into what I initially said, and then the fact that this topic is quite broad, and it gives, and I'm sure that other panel members would come in and give a different perspective of the topic that we have. So I would like to end here by saying that lady engineers need to be celebrated, and by so doing, we'll be able to ensure some level of adaptivity. Some level of adaptivity would bring some level of sustainability. Sustainability would bring continuous development, and then by so doing and mentoring them, by so doing, we'll be able to gather experience upon experience upon experience, and then at the end of the day, we may achieve the engineering excellence that we are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Frederick. Thank you so much. And thank you for not letting me play the awards music for you to say that you are running out of time. Thank you so much. And we're taking away your key messages. We should celebrate our own. We should project them so that everybody can see what we are doing already, so that we do not look like we are in the minority. We really appreciate that. Let me move on to our second panelist, who is by no means a stranger to any of us, and that is our own president of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer Kwabena Bempong. So Engineer Kwabena Bimpong is a distinguished highway and structural engineer and the current Chief Executive Officer of Associated Consultants Limited, a private engineering consultancy firm and one of the oldest indigenous firms in Ghana. He worked as a teaching assistant in the Soils Foundation Engineering section under past presidents, Professor Samuel Innocent Kofi Ampadu for 1 year before joining Associated Consultants Limited as an assistant engineer. Engineer Bimpong was awarded a Netherlands Fellowship program to further his studies in road engineering for development at the Delft University of Technology. In the Netherlands, at Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands, and completed with a Master's of Science degree with honors in road and pavement engineering in 1998. Upon returning to Ghana, he rejoined Associated Consultants Limited and was promoted to the grade of engineer in 1999. He served as a member of the Membership Committee of Council for 14 years, 8 as its chairman, thus becoming one of the longest serving chairman of the Membership Committee. He has been a member of council of the Ghana Institution of Engineering for the past 16 years and is now the president for the 20 to 2025 council year. He's a member of the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association, Institution of Directors Ghana, and the Ghana Transportation Professionals Forum. Kwabena is an outstanding professional engineer and has mentored many engineering professionals who are currently contributing their quota both locally and internationally. He's currently the Chief Resident Engineer for the Design and Construction Supervision of Ashaman Roundabout Akosobo Junction, the rehabilitation of the Ofanko to Nsawam Dual Carriage Way project, and the Project Director for Swami Interchange and Local Road Project. Engineer Bimpong has undertaken several design and supervision assignments in the highway and structural engineering over the past 35 years. Notably among them are the flagship Pokwasi Interchange and Local Roads Project. We received the highly commendable Project of the Year Award at the FIDIC Contract Users Conference in London for the year 2022. Furthermore, he has served in various capacities from assistant engineer to resident engineer on other road projects, including the Ejuru to Mjato Zongo, Bam Nkrumah Circle to Achimota Dual Carriageway, including the Alajo Interchange, Eastern Bypass, to mention a few. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage for his 3 to 4 minute submission, Engineer Kwabena Bimpong. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Well, thank you very much, Lucy, and for the WHIE in Ghana and FAEO. I'm delighted to be called upon to participate in this great and innovating, and I will say a historic program. And I thank my fellow panelists who set the ball rolling by defining topic, because for every topic, before you go in, you need to have an understanding of what you are. So I'm not going to go around trying to talk to everybody about what I'm going to say, but then just like him, I got this information or the request for the questions only about yesterday or 3 days today, and I decided to find out, in terms of get some data. And you called your wife. Well, my wife is not an engineer, so I called my classmates, who, of course, at the time we had only 2 ladies. Well, we started with 1, then later we had 2. Well, let me just first go into the details of my presentation. Globally, we all know that women are underrepresented in engineering and STEM fields in general. And the enrollment of females in engineering and other STEM fields in Ghana is currently estimated at about 14%. And as I was saying, in the 1989-90 academic year, that is the year in which I went to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology at the time, we had only 5 ladies out of 200 enrollments. That is, our population was 200 in all this, the courses. And the 5 ladies, we had 1 in electrical, 1 in 2 in chemical, 1 in civil, and 1 in mechanical. All the others were just a boys' school. So this was just a mere 2.5% of enrollment. At KNUST, the data that I got between 2003 and 2018 the proportion of females in engineering was about 13.7%. And in 2022, the figure shot from 600 females to 1,800 females, which represented about 18%. So you can see that there was an increase in the enrollment of females in the engineering college. And I spoke to the past provost, who happened to be my classmate, Professor Aduma Samoa, and he gave me some startling statistics, which I would like to share with you. In his address during the 2019 graduation, he said that 15% of the engineering students population had first class. And then here I'm talking about females. Females had first class. And well, at the time, 15%, let me rephrase it, 15% were females. But then out of this proportion, in the total, 20% were in the first class were females. And 92% got second class upper or better. Furthermore, out of the 15 undergraduate programs that was run at the time, now it is 18, 6 of the programs were topped by females. And for civil engineering, the top 3 were females. This is just to prove the fact which the first presenter said, that whilst in school, some of these ladies were doing much better than the gentlemen. So the question that I will be posing is that what happened along the line? In 2022, 9% of electrical engineers were women, compared to 32% of environmental engineers. Now, this is painting a certain picture. And then when I finish, we will try and see whether it is clear to everybody. In addition, only 18% of software developers and 25% of computer and information research students in the computer industry were women, and this is a global figure. Then when you come to Ghana, in 2022, 40% of students enrolled in, that were enrolled in biomedical engineering were females. And I can see Professor Kaufman here, probably she will give us some insights into 2024. Similarly, 25% were females for the civil engineering, chemical and materials engineering, respectively. However, only 8% were in the mechanical class, that is the females. Another interesting data is that in the environmental and water courses, we had 70% being females. Now, the question that is put here is that why do we have, or do we see that females probably get much more towards the courses that have impact on society, direct impact on society, as opposed to probably doing mechanical or some other courses, as the data has shown. But then the question that I pose now is that you can see the interesting statistics, but then currently at the Ghana Institution of Engineering, the proportion of women is only 8%, 8.08%. Even though, as I had shown earlier on, the enrollment of females have doubled, since our time, probably even, gone to 10 times since the 1990s. So why is it that we have only 8% of the females? And I know when we get into the nuances of this discussion on our panelist discussion, we probably would want to find out why and how we can help them. So the deliberate efforts being made by WIE and other progressive institutions is very commendable. And I would like to end my presentation, my 3 minutes. I hope that I was able to be within the 3 minutes. And then when we get into the panelists time, we can probably share more insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bimpong. And were you within your 3 minutes? A little bit over, but it's okay. It's okay. You were sharing some really insightful things. So we really appreciate that. Why is it that women always start out high, but somehow when it comes to the practice of engineering, the core engineering courses, women are dropping along the lines? Thank you so much for your insightful and presentation. I'm going to quickly move on to our next panelist. That is Engineer Dr. Salom Dovlo. Engineer Dr. Salom Dovlo. Salom is a professional engineer specialized in sustainable agriculture mechanization with experience in lecturing and research. He's a senior lecturer at the Department of Agricultural Engineering at the University of Ghana, but he's currently an early career research fellow at the ARUA COE in SFS at the University of Pretoria. Salom aims to ensure smallholder farmers have access and control of affordable and sustainable machinery for the agricultural production. In addition, his research seeks to ensure a gender transformative approach to agricultural mechanization. It goes without saying that he is very apt for this job. Dr. Engineer Salom, over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for the invitation and your kind introduction. So I think when I got the invitation, I also had to do a bit of thinking to see, okay, how can I approach this? First of all, I want to also thank all the people working behind the scenes to make this panel discussion also possible. And one of the things that I really wanted to highlight in my discussion is about the fact that our approach towards gender equality must ensure that we use transformative approaches, thus ensuring we have gender transformative change. And I'll try to use my 3 minutes wisely to just elaborate further on this. One of the things that happen when we talk about gender equality is that we always encourage women to take the mantle, and promote them, try to guide them into the field. But then all of us exist within a society. If you don't allow the conditions around to also accept that kind of change, you realize that what you'll be doing will just be responsive. So having a male panelist talk about this, I was like, this is a very, very good idea, because you have to, female engineers will exist in working environments where there will be male engineers as well. If the male engineers there don't accept or also don't feel that it's their responsibility to also ensure that they are, the other engineers there are accepted into the work environment, you realize that this issue of people dropping off along the way becomes more. So it's important that we have this transformative approach. And one of the very ways to do it is this kind of discussions where we bring the men also on board. And this example has also come up in trying to do research where we are looking at how can we impact change, promote transformative change. And you see that if you leave out some aspect of the society and focus on only one aspect, what happens is that your change becomes just responsive and doesn't lead to that transformative change. So I'm so happy to be part of this. And throughout this discussion, I'll make further submissions on how we can continue this further and continue to promote the gender equality and ensure that we use transformative approaches in our quest to ensure we have a diverse engineering sector. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Salom Doglo. Really appreciate that you kept it quite succinct within the minute that was allocated. I really appreciate that. And very good insights as well. I can't wait for us to get into the panel discussion for us to deliberate more across the key theme areas that we have for us today. So we'll move on very quickly to Mr. Tony Enyimadu, Head of Amira Africa and the Vice President of Amira Global. Anthony, or Tony, is a metallurgical engineer with 31 years post-qualification experience spanning diverse geographies, commodities, and functional areas. Tony has worked on projects and operations including Africa, Australia, South and North America, and projects in Europe. He got his stripes in the trenches in process engineering, plant design, operations, optimization, and management across PGMs, gold and base metals. In the last decade, Tony has utilized his practical experience gained in the business end of mining and process development in his global roles, from lead metallurgical engineer on reviews and due diligence, global head of research and innovation implementation for Anglo Gold Ashanti, and currently the Amira head of Africa and global vice president of mineral processing, collaborating with over 60 minerals producing and equipment supply companies. Tony's passion include training the emerging professionals to short circuit the learning curve, especially in Africa. Example being a past chairman of SAMRI, South African Mineral to Metal Research Organization, which is in collaboration with the South African government, as well as current Mineral Advisory Board member of University of Cape Town Chemical Engineering. And 2, mineral endowment optimization for the benefit of stakeholders, utilizing the body of knowledge and benchmarks, including Amira's 60 years of ongoing global technical collaboration. Mr. Tony, thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and over to you for your 3-minute presentation.
Thank you very much, Engineer Doctor, and good afternoon or morning or evening, wherever you are, everyone. I'm really, just like the other panelists, I'm very happy to be part of this. I would not go into the introduction from KNUST. KB was my mate, and KB are probably the people that I asked, the women engineers that were there with us, Linda and Rita, Pinker and everyone, I also reached out to them and said, what do you think about how best to assist with this? But I will be brief. I have a few daughters, one civil engineer and so on, and I have quite a few women engineering colleagues across the globe. Over the years, this is the advice I give. I said, you are an engineer and you are a woman. Most times, if you concentrate on being competent in engineering, using every advantage that is available now with augmented AI and so on, which I'm sure you'll get into it, you get to the point where people want to work with you. But I've had the privilege of working around the globe, and I realized that in West Africa, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, in Nigeria, in Ghana, it's quite different from in Australia and in Canada and in America. So, and South Africa is somewhere in the middle. So what am I saying? I'm saying that as men supporting our lady engineers, a lot of who are actually much more clever than us, there was a portion of legislation or changing the rules in the game which removes the discrimination, because different forms of discrimination exist, and it is more enhanced depending on which geographical area you are. So that needs to be done. I will give you later on an example of what I did to rewrite the rules in Amendable, for example. So that is there. But just like in the racial discussion, the most important thing we can do for ourselves as Black engineers or women engineers is to actually be very efficient, competent, timeless, reliable. And once we all do that, it cuts off about 2/3 of the conversation. And then we can zoom in on the real issues of lack of welcoming environment and the reason that the statistics that KB just put out there. How can you be so good at the beginning and then eventually you lose interest and only have 8%? Something must be happening. So we need to address that. But I'm saying that my advice is a little bit the other way around. It's saying, let's identify the key things that make you a world-class engineer wherever you are working, expand on that, and then address the two are going hand in hand. Address whatever inequalities are there. There are a few. Socially, when people go for maternity leave, for example, they come back having lost quite a bit and they send them back, and all those things can be ameliorated. But what my point, I'm using my 3 minutes to say, there are 3 key areas. For example, if I was starting as a minerals engineer now, I will zoom in for those things, and those things, whether you are a male engineer or a female engineer, you have to equip yourself with them.
In other words, reverse engineer the engineering profession itself. Start from what people really need in the next 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Make sure you master them. And then, in addition, because when women are very good, when the talented lady engineers are very good, many times they are much more of a joy to work with than men, I must be honest. Because the technical part is only one thing, but the competence question, the technical part is one, but there's a social part and everybody wants to work with nice people. So I'll stop there, but there's a lot that we can give in terms of our experiences in the last 31 years when apartheid had just finished. So it wasn't just the women question, but it was also the racial question, and we learned quite a lot of things. So this is my parting advice. Let's zoom in on the most efficient ways of becoming world-class. Let's be vocal about the things that exist that are sometimes advertently, but also inadvertently keeping the women. A lot is legislation, but also a lot is social settings and boys club and all that. So a lot is social and not all of it is legal. We hear from our legal colleague, but the change of mindset and so on are all very important. So I've just said 2 things. Let's zoom in, identify the key areas to zoom in and be world-class. Let's make sure we are very vocal about the things that are actually uncomfortable and making disadvantaging our lady engineers. And I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Tony, thank you so much for that. So what makes us a world-class engineer? Let's address that first, and then we can move on to the biases and how we break them. We've taken that on board, and you've left us very beautifully, segued very nicely to our lawyer. So we're going to move on to our next panelist, and that is lawyer Kwame Gentwa. And let me introduce him with a little bit of a short bio. Kwame Gentwa is a lawyer and works in the oil and gas industry. And in this industry, he works through the value chain from the upstream through to the downstream. He also works in the power sector and engages most of the power sector institutions, such as ECG, GridCo, VRA, Ghana Gas, and independent power producers, and so engages a lot of engineers. But today, he's not going to talk about any power cuts. He's just going to focus on what he's here to submit, which is looking at engineering excellence. Lawyer Gentwa was instrumental in drafting a lot of the oil and gas legislation and was part of the team as a commissioner at the National Development Planning Commission that drafted the energy sector of the 40 years National Development Plan. He holds other portfolios, example, AGI chairman, oil and gas sector, GIPA chairman, non-agric sector. He's also a member of the Ghana National Electronic Procurement Systems. Lawyer Kwame Gentwa, your submission, sir.
Thank you. And the name is pronounced Jantwa.
Jantwa, sorry. Jantwa.
It's good to be here, and I won't go into any other areas. But let me start by saying, I seem to be the prodigal son amongst a lot of the engineers who have spoken. And I see that they've spoken more on the kind of relationship engineers have with women engineers. But I want to look at areas of challenge. Look, I deal with a lot of engineers, both in the upstream petroleum sector and also in the power sector. In the upstream petroleum sector, TALU, Cosmos, ENI, FPSOs, and you find that a lot of the women engineers there are very limited, very few. You can count them on your fingertips. When you come to the power sector, I deal with GhIE, Ghana Gas, VRA, Akosombo, GridCo, IPPs, Nuclear Authority, and most of all, to crown it, I'm the chairman of the Ghana Energy Awards. So I'm responsible for awarding engineers in most of the energy sector, both petroleum and power. And sometimes you find the number of women who are brought up are not women who are in the echelons of decision-making, but most of the women are those on the management scale and sometimes below management. It's a start. So I would like to look at some of the challenges, and permit me, I hope I can do this within the 3 minutes I've been given. And if I can't, I would when we come to discussion, I'll elaborate on some of them. The first one is women face gender bias and stereotyping, discrimination, and preconceived notions about women's abilities in STEM fields. 2, lack of mentorship. And lack of mentorship is not only on the women's side, but also on the men's side. And I'll elaborate when we come to the discussion. Limited access to guidance, support, and role models. Number 3, limited opportunities. Fewer job opportunities and promotions compared to their male counterparts. Number 4, work-life balance. This work-life balance has not got to do with only women, but also has to do with men. Difficulty balancing work and family responsibilities due to societal expectations. And you know sometimes what our culture does to some of us. Stereotyping and bias in education. Encountering biased attitudes from teachers and peers, discouraging them from pursuing engineering careers. And you find it a lot in the schools. When we go on, we have a system we do. Anybody who wins personality of the year, both female and male, you go to secondary schools and you tell them how you made it. And you find a lot of the women are not even talking about doing engineering. 6, limited access to resources, inadequate access to funding, tools, and technology. 7, sexual harassment. And this has got to do with men and women facing harassment and discrimination in the workplace. 8, societal and cultural pressures, expectations to prioritize family over career goals. Number 9, limited representation, underrepresentation in leadership positions and decision-making roles. And 10, skills mismatch, needing additional training to stay competitive in industry. So we might talk about clapping for women who have made it, but there are a lot underneath there. As men, we can push to the fore. And I don't think we try to do that effectively enough. And I'm sure the discussion will be quite interesting. So I'd like to end my presentation here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Jantwa, for your submission. I really appreciate that. We're going to quickly move into the next session. So you have touched on some key and very critical elements, the challenges that is faced by women in a day-to-day workplace, and how do we address it? How do we as a collective address that? So thank you all for your submissions. It goes without saying, audience, that we do have 5 real male champions who are, well-versed in their fields and are willing to add a little bit of their voices to the topic that matter today. So we're going to quickly move on to the panel discussion. We're going to try and keep it short and sweet with the kind of like the structured questions so that we can leave a little bit of time for a more interactive session with the audience. We know that we're slightly behind time at the moment, so we're going to run quickly into the main thematic areas of the panel discussion. We'll be touching on some critical themes. So we're going to be looking at leadership and mentorship. We're going to be looking at how we're overcoming challenges. We're going to be talking about promoting diversity, and then we'll look at innovation and collaboration. So I'm going to start off first of all with Engineer Bediako around leadership and mentorship. Can you share an example of how your leadership style has supported diversity and inclusion within your organization? And again, if we can keep this short so that we can have a bit of a more interactive open session. So if we keep this to like 2 minutes, we'd really appreciate it. Engineer Bediako, can you share an example of how your leadership style has supported diversity and inclusion within your organization?
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. I once had a discussion with a mentor, and his advice was that when you assume a certain role or position, you have to look at the next position and then make sure that whenever there is a gap that you are creating, somebody is available to filling into that gap. And really, I am someone who likes to teach. And everyone that works with me would know that I like to share a few points and then make sure that whoever that is working with me carries on with whatever that needs to be done. And in my bio, there was a line that talks about my region being the best region, and it will amaze you that my core team is mostly women. So I'm a bit gender biased towards the other side and not necessarily discriminating against women. In my leadership role, I've made conscious effort to create diversity in my team and making sure that all teams includes female engineers and make sure. Now, let me put it in perspective that female engineers are very analytical and then very much, as we said before, they are very intelligent in their dealings and very dedicated to their service, only if they do not have any other external factors that are preventing them from doing whatever it is. So call it what you may, but then I like throwing my subordinates under the bus in a bit to project them and not in a negative way. So in meetings, I will call you in and I would want you to lead the discussions. If I have a presentation that is external, I would call one of them and ask them to be able to give that based on the topic that we have. So it is all about inclusivity, making sure that, you know, I bring them on board and then projecting them and you know, so that they'll be ready for the next level if they are given the opportunity.
Thank you so much about that. So
that is.
Yeah, please carry on.
Okay, so I found that effective mentorship strategies include regular check-ins, and regular check-ins goes beyond, have you been able to meet the deadline? Have you completed the work that I gave you? It is not that straightforward. You need to be able to go beyond that and see whether the person is in that particular frame of mind to be able to do whatever that you're asking them to do. Now, setting clear goals and objectives and providing opportunities for growth and development. We talked about capabilities. Now, capabilities would ensure that there's a bit of adaptability. Now, adaptability makes sure that you become seamless, and whatever situation that you find yourself, you'll be able to slot in and then, you know, deal with it. So you should I also encourage open communication and actively listening to concerns and ideas. By doing so, I've given significant growth and advancement to women engineers that have worked under me. And fortunately, there's one that is listening very closely to whatever that I'm saying. So I would like to leave it here.
Thank you so much, Engineer Frederick. So in your submission, you've been very deliberate about how you include diversity or include women within what you do at your organization. But you've also led us some key nuggets about mentorship, about throwing people in the deep and giving them challenging tasks so they can rise above it. Thank you so much for that. Engineer Bimpong, what mentorship strategies have you found most effective in supporting the career of women engineers?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Before I go on with the strategies, I would like to bring to the fore some misconceptions about engineering in general. And that is why some ladies decide not to, or females decide not to go into engineering. There was once a school was visited, and when they got to know that there were various branches of engineering, they were amazed because they thought that engineering was what we call the fitter or the mechanic who lies under the vehicle to work very dirty clothing. And that was the figure of engineer that they had in their minds. And I must say that I agree very much with all that my sorry, my camera has gone off. Let me try and bring it up. My fellow panelists have said. So for me, there's a need to continuously demystify engineering as being the preserve of men and to use data, and this is the data that I have shared earlier on, to encourage more females into the profession. Let them know that they are doing well and they can do more. However, there's a need to intentionally support them after graduation. It is not enough to encourage them as to get into STEM and everything. But once they graduate, that is where the challenge, before you graduate, you are an engineering student. After graduating, you are an engineering practitioner. Well, you are not yet an engineering practitioner, but then once you go through the nuances, then you become an engineering practitioner. And before they get there, that is where they need a lot of support, because some of the ladies get in my church. I was asked to give a presentation, and I think that was shared on social media. So one lady, I don't know whether she is here, she decided that, oh, there's an engineer. She probably hasn't met an engineer after school. So she wanted to come and hear me speak to the youth. After the presentation, this lady walked to me and confessed to me that she was confused, and she didn't know whether she had to continue doing engineering because she didn't find it fun. She didn't probably find it fun because of where she was. And this is where the issue of mentorship comes in. I have been very fortunate to work with some wonderful female engineers in my office, and I believe that they are also on here at the executive committee of the Ghana Institute of Engineering, on our council, and on various projects. And I can say without an iota of doubt, and I'm just saying similar to what my predecessor, Frederick, did say, that their competencies, their dedication to duty, their attention to detail, report writing skills, their mindsets are above par. And I dare say that they are better than, I was going to say some, but probably most of their female counterparts. I have had a lot of support from such women of substance, and I unashamedly say that they have contributed to my personal success. This is why I will always advocate for equity and inclusivity, especially at all levels of the profession. Now, let's go into the strategies, and I know we have a very short time, so I'll not over-elaborate. But then at Associated Consultants, again, I'm going to share some information with you. We have created a supportive and an inclusive environment for our female engineers to thrive. And for me, this is the most effective way to ensure that they feel loved and accepted. Somebody has already talked about the flexible working hours, especially for our mothers and generally for our women to be able to fit into the work-life balance. You need to understand them. when they are in their time of the month, you need to understand that it's not just going to be the same. So you as an engineering leader, you know how to deal with them. You have to pamper them, and not the pampering, but tell them as it is, help them. And that takes me to the targeted mentorship programs. You have to have gender-friendly policies. And my good friend Anthony did mention that. Then there's always the need for professional support. You need to provide professional support. And the individual's career goals must always be taken into consideration when we are posting them to the various departments in our organization. We also provide opportunities for skills development, which involves training programs. Similarly, there's a need for encouragement for networking and visibility. And here I'm talking about attending conferences, seminars, and professional associations. We need to encourage them, give them time off to be able to to have such interactions, because that also exposes them. And then there's also the issue about recognition. Women want to hear it, not just feel that, oh, they know. They don't. Tell them that they are good. Tell them that you have done well. Yes, of course, if you don't do well, and I have a colleague here, she knows me, sometimes I speak bluntly. I'll tell you didn't do well. But then, just like my Anthony said, Frederick said, we are throwing under the bus not to destroy you, but just to ensure that you become aware of what you are as a female engineering practitioner. And lastly, I just want to give some statistics. I love statistics, so sorry, I have to tell you what we at Associated Consultants are doing. And this is real. At promote leadership opportunities, and I think that Gentleman did mention that leadership opportunities irrespective of your gender. So listen, out of the 15 number management team, 6 of them are ladies. That is 40% of our entire team. Furthermore, out of the 8 senior management, and here when I say senior management in ACON, we have the associate vice president, and of course the chief executive officer. Here we have 50% of them being ladies. So 4 ladies, 4 men. Top, they are the top at associated consultants. So if you hear associate consultants doing well, don't think that it's just because we've been around for very long, or because you have a male champion as chief executive or the president of the institution. There are ladies behind us who are making sure that things get done and get done well. And I must tell you, I was just checking our numbers of the professional staff that we have. We have only 26% of our professional staff being women. And look at what we are doing, in our space. So let me end here. I know we have, I believe, I'm trying to be, to keep, within your time.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this session, we try to keep it short and sweet because we know it's a Sunday and we don't want to take everybody's day, but we could go on and talk and share all these ideas. So thank you so much for the concrete strategies that you employ to mentor and support women. I liked what you said about, understand where they're coming from, what they're going through, but more importantly, be honest, be blunt. When they're doing well, let them know.
You are on mute. You are muted.
Wow, and I said a lot. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much, Engineer Bimpong, and thank you so much for the concrete things that you are doing at your organization. As I said, we know today is a Sunday. Otherwise, people need to get back to their day duties. But this whole theme would have needed a whole day if you wanted to dive in a bit deeper. But we understand and we appreciate your input. I like what you said around some of the concrete things you're doing in the organization to support women, an inclusive environment, flexible working hours. And I think one of the things that you said that I like to stress up upon is the fact that we need to understand where women are coming from, but more importantly, we need to be blunt, we need to be honest with them, and where credit is due, give them the credit that is due them. Thank you so, so much. Let's move on quickly to the second theme that we have, which is overcoming challenges. Let me move on to Dr. Dovlo. What challenges have you faced in promoting diversity in engineering, and how have you addressed them? I'm looking at your bio, and it says that you have been working on gender transformative approaches. So what are some of the challenges that you have faced in your bid to promote diversity and within what you do, and how have you addressed them?
Okay, thank you so much. Being in the academic field, I think I've had the opportunity to witness firsthand the impact of inclusive practices and then education and training of professionals and the women engineers that we are talking about. And I must say there are a lot of challenges, and we've heard a lot of them from our other speakers. But the one that I would pick on is the ingrained bias and stereotypes that we find in most of the things that we do. There are things that we say or do without realizing that that is the impact it will have on whoever we are trying to either encourage or talk to. So, and the way you can, I try to address that is through mentorship and education of the people. So it's more like in terms of teaching, you have students who tell you that, oh, as for this course, I don't think the programming in it, I can do it. But then you begin to ensure that you show examples of how it is possible and why you can also do it, and ensure that you are not trying to always say that, oh, because you are a woman, you can do this. No, it's as a student, you should be able to do it. As this, you can do it. With this background, you can do it. And ensure you detach that aspect of that aspect of thinking about problems from them, and then you can help bridge that gap. And in terms of gender transformative approaches in research, it's more about ensuring that we have these changes that create sustainable approaches for including arriving at gender equity. I'll end it here and give further examples later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Salom. And I like what you said. You said we have to be aware of our unconscious biases, and we need to make sure that we are not part of people, causing some of these biases and some of these actions. And academia is a very interesting field, I must say. And between what you have said and between what Engineer Pimpon said, women are excelling at school. So how do we handhold them? Create that environment that allows them to thrive and excel. So I'll move on very quickly to Mr. Tony. I'll call you Mr. Tony because I don't want to bastardize your surname. Can you kindly discuss with us an instance when you helped navigate or mitigate biases in the workplace? Just following off what Dr. Dovlo said, how have you navigated or mitigated biases in the workplace?
Quite a few of them, but I will just take to one and then a small one. So the one was, I was a manager for Amandelbult Platinum in South Africa. 2004, Amandelbult was producing the world's biggest PGM producer. And we found that there were quite a lot of intelligent, especially in the process engineering field where I work. Many of the women, and I agree with everybody who has spoken so far, in terms of attention to detail, which we really need in those metal accounting, the women far beat the men. But they will go on maternity leave, and then by the time they come back 6-7 months later, they have lost a bit of gap. So what we did was to basically sit down and say, okay, hang on, not all this work is physical. In fact, I would say 70% of it is mental and intellectual. So when you go, it's up to you. Can you continue doing some portions of the intellectual part while somebody does the physical part, so that when you come, you don't feel like you've lost so much. And we did that, and it really helped. It produced a lot. The other one, which had a massive consequences, was South Africa had just come out of apartheid, and they had this mining charter, and there were women things in there. But so I was the chair of the South African Minerals to Metal Research Institute. So we had some money from the government and from the mining institution. And we insisted that at least 40% of it would go to women researchers and principal investigators. We hit 20% and we got stuck. In order not to derail it, we expanded it to include Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, and so on, until we got the 40%. Now, if you go back, 57% of them are women. In other words, some of these things, if you want to do, don't stop in the way with a little bit of difficulty. Go ahead, even if you have to expand your circle until it is proven, because now it becomes for the last 5 years, anybody who knows about people getting research awards for chemical engineering, they are not surprised that actually 57% of them are women. And so those are things that you speak to the people, try, and where legislation comes in as a last resort, sometimes you have to do that. But many times, is the mentorship, is the social engagements, and basically putting yourself in the shoes of the women who are. And in South Africa, it was easy to do that as a Black engineer because you, on one hand, were discriminated, and therefore you would understand somebody's pain and help. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. So put yourself in the shoes and allow so that you understand the work and give them opportunities. Be strategic, and as a last resort, always use legislation if needs be. And some people might complain and say, is it positive or negative, targeting or whatever, but you have to be deliberate if you do want to make that transformational change. And when you give women that opportunity, when you give some women that opportunity, they're able to shine and they're able to show you what they're capable of. Also mentioning the fact that having that option to do that remote work whilst on maternity, so that you reduce that gap of not being at work and not missing out, is a very critical one. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Tony. I'm going to quickly move on. To the next of our next question, which is, we're moving on strictly to promoting diversity and inclusion, our third theme. So I'm coming to Lawyer Jantua. what are some best practices your organization has implemented to create a more inclusive culture? What are some of the best practices your organization has implemented to create a more inclusive culture?
Thank you for the question, Engineer Dr. Lewis. What we found out was that women aren't the problem. Women are not the problem. The problem are men. And so we realized that, yes, women needed mentorship, but it was the men who needed mentorship more to understand what the woman was all about. And you tend to find that when you start giving that kind of mentorship to men, they then say, we didn't realize this. Oh, is that how it is? Oh, really? And it should be a continuous thing, because what you then find is that men then fall back into where they are used to. Now, it's not only a fact of mentorship, it's a fact of also being able to put in the work-life balance. And we realize that, for instance, women are the ones who have children. Women don't decide on their own to have children. They decide with their spouse. But when it now comes to having the child, it's the woman who bears more the brunt. So we must have a situation where we can balance it with men, so that the woman also finds it comfortable. Sometimes, when the child gets to a certain age, and one of the things we tried to institute was that when the child gets to a certain age, we give the man much more chance to stay at home, and the woman go back to work when she has to, so that he too can be able to help in terms of child bringing, in terms of the bonding with the child and all that. And we realized that after a while, that balance was understood and a gradual process was seen in the establishment. But most importantly, we weren't too concerned about the women who were in the upper levels. My good colleague, I think it was the first speaker, who indicated that the number of engineers decreased after a certain time. You find that it is the engineers in the lower grades, those who have entered the company, those who are in middle management, those who are in lower management, who face a lot of challenges. And one needs to encourage them, deliberately encourage them, and give them that insight that there is much light, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so they should be encouraged to achieve. And in terms of their ability, and sometimes you find that a lot of the women, I've been into GhIE, I've been into GhIE, I've been into VRA, and you find that some of the lady engineers in the lower levels, they are sharp. And sometimes it threatens the men. And so they try as much as possible to put those women down. But we encourage, we go in there with the Ghana Energy Awards, we go in there and try to encourage that if a woman is sharp, being an engineer, she adds value to the office she's in. So it is best to encourage, and it is best to learn together. One thing we found, especially with the GhIE, was that because where GhIE is all the way in the Brahaf region, the Bunu region, you found that there was a congenial atmosphere where the men sometimes tried to help the women, because where are you going? There's no nightlife. There's nowhere you can go into town. You're all in one enclosure. So they tended to help the women, pick themselves up. And I'll end by giving an example of when we go to the secondary schools. We went to Achimota Secondary School. We went to Nungwa Secondary School. And you realize that career guidance, especially with engineering, wasn't there. And so we tried as much as possible. In fact, the VRA CEO tried as much as possible to institute that kind of career guidance in there, because a lot of the ladies who were interested in engineering knew nothing about it. And I think it's one thing that we need to do. And the Ghana Energy Awards has started instituting that type of thing within the awards, so that we can also award schools who are bringing ladies up to handle engineering. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So going to the schools, high schools, junior high schools, and doing some real career guidance on engineering. I think that is one of the critical things, one of the things that women in engineering, we are hoping to continue to do, and to be able to, change the number of women that are actually taking an interest to understand what their job actually looks like, and to equip them to know that they are more than capable. And today, audience, you don't have to quote me, you can quote Lawyer Jantua. He said, women are not the problem. Women are not the problem. So you can go away today and say, we are not the problem, but rather we need to work with our male counterparts so that they understand the impact of some of their decisions, impact of some of what we say, the unconscious biases, so that we can help change their mindset and together go and achieve what we want to achieve. Thank you so much for that, Lawyer Jantua. So I'm going to quickly move on to still under promoting diversity and inclusion. Engineer Bediako, let me come back to you. How do you ensure diverse talent pipeline are fostered and maintained in your company? Because you mentioned that you have a high percentage of women within your organization. So how do you ensure diverse talent pipeline are fostered and maintained in your organization?
Thank you very much once again, Madam Moderator. As a male engineer, I've had the privilege of working in this field for years, and I've learned that engineering excellence is not just about technical skills, but also about collaboration, empathy, and inclusivity. And, as Lawyer Jantua was saying, the empathy bit is actually lost on us as male engineers, and we do not understand the woman engineer very much as we are expected to do so. And as such, we expect that same level of commitment from them, irrespective of how they may be feeling or the situation that they may be in. Have been married to a lady engineer gives me that kind of understanding and empathy that brings about that level of diversity and inclusivity. Going in there to the question that you just posed, that is innovation and collaboration, as you said. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay. So the diverse perspective that have been instrumental in solving complex engineering challenges. For instance, our team developed an innovative solution to a long-standing problem by combining the expertise of engineers from different backgrounds and disciplines. When I resumed the role as a major project manager, now ECG operates a principle of not a projectized environment, but kind of functional responsibility thereof. So for you to be able to get resources to handle projects, you need to pick up from different places. So we set up what we call a project implementation unit. And a project implementation unit brought in different experts from different sections. Now, the challenge here is that because these experts do not belong to the project, and because they have functional responsibilities that goes beyond the project, sometimes you do not get their resource, the availability in terms of giving their 100% to that. So the project implementation unit brought together these innovative and collaborative ideas, and by bringing experts together, we're able to solve various challenges that we face within the organization.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bediako. Let me quickly ask my last two questions, and then we'll try and take one or two questions from the participants or the audience, and then we will try and wrap it up because we're running out of time. So last theme is on innovation and collaboration. And Engineer Bimpo, let me come back to you. In what ways have diverse perspectives within your team contributed to innovation and solving complex engineering challenges? You mentioned that in your organization, you have a large number of women sitting up high management positions and within the teams. So how has this diversity, contributed to innovation and solving complex engineering challenges?
Well, with this question, the first phrase that comes to mind is variety is the spice of life. Diverse perspectives are always good for problem solving because it helps us to have a broad range of ideas and options to select from. And, you know, they also help to provide decisions which are all-rounded and thorough. Because a lot of the time, if you are not careful, you give a solution based on your narrow view of the problem. But then when you have diverse perspectives, it allows you to see the problem from various points of view. And thus, you tailor your solutions to meet a wider range of needs, thus improving the problem-solving capabilities of the team. And there's this issue, the thing of elephant theory. I don't know whether, that when you were describing the elephant, you describe the elephant based on what you are exposed to. Whether you say that it has large ears, it has this trunk, it has, all that. But then there's a psychologist that I read, Jonathan Hadid. He introduced a useful analogy for thinking about the behavior change. And that is that the elephant represents our emotional side, vast, powerful, and often driven by instinct. But then, in comparison to somebody who rides that elephant, who is perched at the back, or you probably can also see the horse. But then what that person does is that he is using the rationality of the human mind. He's being analytical, he's planning. But when you compare that small man to that huge elephant, they don't. So in a way, it is the combination or the collaboration of these two. What am I driving at? Let's say that the woman, as the Bible says, the weaker sex. However, there might be that small brain, okay, and then the man will be the brawn to be able to carry out, a task. But at the end of the day, we all come in with our different perspectives, and we come with, or we get a solution that will meet all aspects of the challenge or the problem that is foreign. So there's a need for us to encourage what I call critical thinking and innovation. We have to be bold. And one of the things that I always tell my people, and I use it just this even Friday or so, that I have a personal maxim. I don't know where I got it from, but then I always say that things have always remained the same. It's not enough reason why we must not change. So don't be cast into concrete that this is the way it is done, very rigid. Allow people to bring new ideas, and by doing so, those perspectives will help shape the solution. Of course, as engineering practitioners, what do? We provide solutions, and to provide solutions, you need to get fresh and new ideas to be able to get solutions that will stand the test of time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So variety, but in this case, diversity is the spice of life. Thank you so much. Let me finish off my last questions with Engineer Dr. Dovlo. And can you provide us with an example of a successful collaboration that was enhanced by diversity in your field of work? An example of successful collaboration that was enhanced by diversity.
Thank you. To borrow from your word, diversity is the spice, right?
Diversity is the spice of life.
Yeah. So diversity brings about the huge wealth of knowledge, perspective, and creativity. And for me, one of the projects or collaborations I would like to bring to forefront is this Food Systems Research Network for Africa, FSNet Africa, which is part of the African Research Universities Alliance and the Center for Sustainable Food Systems. One of the research projects they launched is to open up this core where they have 80% of their fellows who are women. And in doing this research, I also find myself doing my research in terms of ensuring machinery provision for farmers. And as usual, as an engineer, one of the first things I'll think about when I think about farmers having machines is how can I make sure I design machines well for them? And how can I make the machine more efficient? But then in joining this team, we began asking the question that, okay, smallholder farmers that we want to look at, about 60% of them globally are female. And in Ghana, some data suggests about 43% of them are female. So then we started asking the question, how can we ensure, why are they not even accepting the machine as it is? And then that opened up a new scope of trying to find out the farmers there, what do they want from machinery and how do they want machines to be packaged for them to accept it? And then we got into the field and I had a research assistant, a female research assistant that interviewed the females. And you will be amazed at the insights that we got, that the women are not trying to say they don't want the machines. It's just that some are of the view that the men say when you use the machine, you get sick, because most of the men that use the machine get sick. So why will they also want to use it? And that's just about the vibrations of the machine. So that then becomes an engineering problem, which we can solve and then open up that branch of machine access. So that's one of the ways in which collaboration can help open up the field and also expand and lead to equality. That's what I want to talk about.
Thank you so much, Dr. Selom, for that. That was truly a good example. One of the ones that I've always heard is that in the transportation sector, when deciding where bus stops should be, usually the team of men would not consider that if it was a woman who was carrying a child at their back, carrying luggage, maybe we need to reduce the distance a little bit. So having that diversity gives you that opportunity for you to think outside the box. And as it was said earlier on, we need to make sure that we are not confined within what we know, but rather we should break out of the mold and, you know, and be more diverse in our thinking and be more creative in solving some of these problems. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, my wonderful panelists. I'm just going to take one question because I know it's past 6 o'clock now. If you have any questions that you have for the panelists or you want to make any contribution, I'm going to go on to the participant. The first hand I see, I will call. But before I do that, I'll just read one comment from Eunice. Eunice said, for me, I think moving women into engineering should start from the home because that's where the fundamental and self-confidence are built. Eunice, we've taken that on board, and that's something that we really and truly believe that we need to do. So women in engineering, we are actively doing that. We need to go outside the school and go to the home. Engineer Dr. Kwame Mwachi, I just see your hand go up. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Lucy. This has been a wonderful discussion. The thing I'd like to bring to the attention is our focus has been on the professional engineer so far. All the stuff we've been saying have been on the professional engineer. I would like to suggest that we expand our scope to engineering practitioners, meaning, you know, technicians, artisans, and then engineering technologists. Because as you well know, there are many more opportunities at the technician and the artisan level than there are at the professional engineering level. And as a matter of fact, if you want to change attitudes toward engineering, it is much faster to do it if you can get many more female technicians, many more, you know, female artisans and so on. So let us deliberately expand our focus to cover those. Second point I'd like to make is the emphasis in all of this, and based on my experience in the US, you know, from the racial angle, is it should be on access. And as a matter of fact, my advice is that if you are given an opportunity because you are female, don't be defensive about it. Accept it. The thing is, once you get in there, what you do then begins to make the statement. But if you are not given access, it doesn't matter how great you are, you will never be able to demonstrate. And a good case that I'll give is, I was at AT&T Bell Laboratories for many years when AT&T started the affirmative action. And when I first went there, out of about 4,000 technical people, all the Blacks could gather around one table. About 14, we could have lunch, about 14 of us. So they made a deliberate effort to bring in, Black technical people. And of course, as usual, there were all kinds of reasons why not. But they insisted and actually established a relationship with the historically Black colleges and universities. So they sent employees as ambassadors to these institutions to bring them closer to Bell Laboratories. This program became so successful that that the person who invented the cell phone came out of that program. So that's my contribution.
Thank you so much, Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye. So we need to expand it outside just engineering professionals. If we really want the masses to change, we need the numbers. And the numbers are in artisans, the numbers are in practitioners, the numbers are in technicians, and we hear you loud and clear. So we will be reaching out. And then the other thing that you mentioned that I can see everybody's commenting on the chat page is access, access, access. So thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for everybody. Thank you to my esteemed panelists for your highly engaging and insightful discussion. We've had a lot of perspective, a lot of inputs on leadership, mentorship, overcoming challenges, how we can promote diversity, how we can foster innovation through collaboration. And I want to say a massive thank you to all 5 panelists for joining us on this maiden edition and for your contribution. And I want to say a massive thank you to the audience. I know if we had a bit more time, we could have had a really interactive session which can go on. We've read all your comments, we've taken everything on board, and we will be actioning some of the items that have come out of this interactive sessions. So I'm gonna move over and hand over to our chair, Engineer Yetunde, for her to give us the closing remarks, after which we will take the vote of thanks. And please, we would like to take a group picture. So we will ask after the closing remarks for everybody to put on their cameras, and we're gonna do a screen grab of each and every one of you so that we can say that you were part of our maiden edition of Engineering Excellence. So Engineer Yetunde, if I have you on here, if you can give us the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lucy. Like has been said, it has been a very insightful conversation with a lot to learn, a lot to take away. I would like to emphasize the fact that this conversation is a he for she conversation. All the panelists have shown that they are promoters of gender equality, and they're he for she advocates. Engineer Frederick, I was the engineer. It's engineer. The president of the Ghana GhIE, Engineer Kobina, particularly identified the underrepresentation of. Oh, okay. He said my video should be on. Yes, the underrepresentation of women in engineering, and he gave some very interesting statistics. In so doing, he has identified the leaky pipeline, which is a different conversation on its own. Why are women leaving engineering? They do so well in the university, and then they leave. They don't continue. They drop along the line. So that's the leaky pipeline phenomenon. Of course, all the panelists have identified. They've advocated intentional support for women. And Engineer Corbin also said that women have contributed to his personal success. I'm sure your wife is amongst those women, whether she's an engineer or not. Thank you. Something flying around here. This is Africa. Engineer Frederick says a woman should be, who is married to an engineer, we should celebrate and showcase women. And then we had the prodigal son, the lawyer, but who works with engineers. Thank you very much for working with us and for advising that we strive for that there are not enough women in the C-suite. We agree, and we're trying, and there's limited access to women. Mr. Tony says we should strive for excellence before addressing gender equality. Very important. Women should strive for excellence. That's, whether you're male or female, excellence is key. Dr. Satlon, thank you very much for encouraging the young ones in the university that regardless of their gender, they can succeed in engineering. I think that's about all because, like you said, in the enlisting, we don't have much time. So I'll hand over to the person giving the vote of thanks now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to call on Engineer Rosina to give us the vote of thanks. But before she gives the vote of thanks, I'd like to mention that I have been working together with Engineer Elizabeth Boama and Engineer Beverly, who are both rapporteurs of this event. Thank you so much for your work behind the scenes. We really appreciate you. I hand over to Engineer Rosina.
Thank you very much. It is an honor for me to give the vote of thanks today. I will start by expressing special appreciation to WIE Mentoring and Education Committee and FAEO-WIE Team 1 list with Engineer Albert Amakwa as team lead, with support from our WFAEO-WIE chair, Engineer Dr. Enyona Nkpekpena, for this great initiative and seeing to the successful implementation of the maiden program. Second appreciation goes to Engineer Holloway Tunde for chairing this program, although it was at a later stage. Thank you very much, Madam. A big thank you goes to our male champions and panelists, Engineer Kwabena Bempon, Lawyer Kwame Jantua, Engineer Frederick Kwabena Bediakon, Mr. Tony Anyimedu, Engineer Dr. Selom Dovlo. We are grateful to you all for availing yourselves to be with us despite your busy schedules. We appreciate your time and insights shared. Next thanks goes to Engineer Dr. Lucy Ajepon for moderating this program beautifully to a successful end. To our rapporteurs, Engineer Elizabeth Boama and Engineer Beverly Nyakuchikwa, you have done a great job. Engineer Mavis Aloti, the organizing secretary of WIE Ghana, deserves an applause for pulling through for us. Last but not least, thank you goes to all WIE, GhIE, and WIE members for your contribution to the success of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Engineer Rosina. Thank you too. And if I can kindly ask everybody to turn on your cameras for us, give us your most beautiful Sunday smile so that we can take a picture. We're going to take a group picture. We'll take a screen grab of the number of pages we have. I think currently we have about 3 pages. So if you can just switch on your cameras, everybody, so we can do a bit of a screen grab and take pictures of everybody that is here with us today. And give me a beautiful smile. We're starting off with the first, we have 6 pages, so we're going to go through all of them. We're starting with the first page. Give me your first smile. Please don't turn off your cameras. Then we'll move on to the second page. Give us your biggest smile. We'll move on to the third page. Give us your smile. I'm seeing very, very beautiful smiles. Thank you so much. We're moving on to the fourth page. So we're on page 4 out of 6 now. Give us your smile. Now the 5th page. Thank you.
Please
and last but not the least.
Dr. Lucy, you have to do page 1 again. No, my face was missing.
Okay, we'll do so. Bear with me 1 second. Let me do the last one and I'll come back to do page 1 again. So make sure you put your cameras on if you want to feature on page 1. So you see that a lot of people featuring on page 6 do not have your cameras on, but we'll still grab you so that we know that you were here as well. Thank you so much. And we're going to do page 1 again. Page 1 again. Give me a big smile, everybody that has your cameras on. Thank you. I see very beautiful faces. And thank you so much for taking time out on a Sunday to join us. Really appreciate you. And so with that, I want to say a massive thank you for joining our maiden edition of the Engineering Excellence. We hope to bring more insightful discussions along the year. Please don't forget that we're still celebrating Wine at 25. We'll be doing a lot of mentoring activities throughout the year. Please support us if you can. And when you see us, follow and like our social media pages, sponsor us to do some of our projects. And in November, we'll have a big gala where we'll invite all of you. Thank you once again and have a good evening.